Welcome to this explainer. Right now, there is a massive technological shift happening totally under the radar, and it is going to fundamentally change how we use our devices. We're talking about moving away from that endless passive scrolling, just consuming content all day, and moving toward an era of active, real-time skill building. It is a massive shift in how we interact with technology, and today we're going to unpack exactly how the whole shebang works.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at the macro shift to ability media. Second, the smart coaching engine itself. Third, we'll check out the StrideWise app to see all of this actually in action. And finally, we'll wrap up with the pocket state principle.
So, part 1, the shift to ability media, moving from passive to active.
Look, if you've ever felt totally exhausted by those massive 5-hour video courses, or just really frustrated by generic AI advice that absolutely doesn't apply to your actual life, well, you are definitely not alone. For over a decade now, we've basically lived in the era of interest media. It is super passive. It's all about finding information, consuming it, and staying glued to your screen. The whole premise is, hey, because you watched this, here's more content exactly like it. But the emerging model we're looking at is ability media. And this is fundamentally different because it's active. Instead of just mindlessly consuming, you are actually practicing a response and building up your structural and emotional capacity. The technology is essentially saying, because you're trying to handle this specific situation, here is the exact micro skill you need right now.
And the exact problem with the status quo is that life literally does not wait for your next scheduled appointment. You take a massive course, you read a whole book, you feel great, and then Tuesday happens. A super stressful meeting pops up, or somebody sends you a really difficult message out of nowhere. The gap between that passive learning you did and actually applying it in the real world, it's huge. Ability media closes that gap by giving you a usable 3-minute micro skill, like, say, preparing a boundary sentence, right in the exact moment that Tuesday meeting happened.
All right, moving to part 2, the SMRT coaching engine, the 5-part capability model. Let's really zoom in on the operational engine driving this whole shift. This is the underlying framework that takes AI from being just some generic conversational chatbot and turns it into an always available, context-aware, self-development infrastructure. Instead of treating personal development like some abstract, boring curriculum, the SMART framework uses 5 completely distinct capabilities to take a real-life moment of friction and turn it into a structured opportunity for actual growth.
So let's walk through these 5 capabilities. First up is sense. Instead of treating every single prompt like a blank slate, the system actively works to understand your present state. It does this through conversation, manual input, or connected data to enable what's called need-state routing. It basically understands where you're at before it even speaks. Second is maintain, which we'll actually dive deeper into in just a second. Third is adapt. Let's say the system senses you're physically depleted or super stressed. Well, it pivots away from heavy instruction to guide you through a rapid 3-minute reset that's perfectly tailored to your immediate energy level. Fourth is return and review. Smart coaching totally rejects those shame-inducing completion check marks. Instead, it creates this continuous, non-shaming feedback loop, asking things like, what actually happened in the real world when you tried this? And finally, transfer, which is all about moving that capability completely off the screen and into your life.
Now, let's zoom back in on that maintain step. We have all experienced the absolute exhaustion of digital amnesia, right? Having to re-explain your history, your patterns, and your goals every single time you open an app. It's exhausting. Well, with the SMART framework, the system maintains a longitudinal memory of your ongoing journey. It actually remembers the micro-practices you tried yesterday, your little behavioral loops, and even the commitments you left unfinished. So the entire interaction fundamentally shifts. Instead of a really frustrating transaction that's constantly asking, who are you? It becomes a natural developmental continuation that asks, where were we? It seriously changes everything.
Okay, part 3, StrideWise Smarts in action.
So you might be wondering, how does this framework actually map onto a specific application? Well, let's look at an app from this ecosystem called StrideWise. It's designed specifically for driven, high-capacity people. And what's cool is StrideWise doesn't try to make ambitious people less ambitious. Instead, it just helps them carry that ambition a lot more intelligently. A core concept here is recognizing what is actually powering your effort. Like, are you running on real fuel? Things like rest, clarity, and purpose. Or are you running on false fuel? We're talking urgency, fear, guilt, or, let's be totally honest, just pure caffeine and panic. False fuel is temporary, and ultimately, it's just exhausting. StrideWise helps you pause and identify what's actually in your tank, so you don't burn out trying to carry the load.
And to do this, StrideWise uses this daily rhythm called the daily sway,
which just perfectly mirrors that SMART framework we just talked about. And notice the emphasis on the word sway. This is a flexible rhythm, okay, not some rigid checklist. It starts with sense. What is your physical and mental system actually signaling today? Then substance. What kind of fuel are you running on, real or false? Next is stride. What pace is honest and realistic for this exact moment in time? Then select. What matters most right now? And finally, seal. Choosing your next step with your whole self and actually closing that loop. It takes the SMART concept of sensing your state and beautifully translates it into a sustainable, actionable next step.
The true relief of this whole approach is how the system adapts your action, your stride, based on your actual real-time capacity. Technology is finally adapting to the human being, rather than forcing us to adapt to some rigid productivity list. Think about it. If you are totally depleted, the absolute last thing you need is a massive, daunting task. So instead of pushing a full stride, the system pivots you to a light stride, a 5-minute stride, or maybe even a recovery stride just to protect your bandwidth. Maybe you just need a communicate-only stride to close off some external pressure with one single, clear message. It is brilliant.
Which brings us to part 4, the pocket stay principle. Real development happens off-screen.
This really hits on the ultimate goal of ability media. It's all about moving capability off your device and into your physical reality. I want to highlight this quote directly from the source material because it really hits the nail on the head. Technology should strengthen human agency, not replace it. The goal is never, ever to keep you glued to your screen or dependent on an app. It operates under what we call the pocket stay metaphor. The technology is simply a fail-safe rehearsal space in your pocket. It's there to help you prepare, find your words, or pace yourself. But the actual development, that happens when you put the phone away, keep it in your pocket, and go live your life. It happens when you actually have that difficult conversation, make the tough decision, or protect your boundaries in the real world.
At the end of the day, the SMART framework is the difference between an AI that just talks intelligently and a system that structurally supports intelligent human development. It acts as this connective continuity layer, ensuring digital insights actually translate into permanent, real-world human capacity. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder today. As this massive hidden AI coaching boom builds the infrastructure of tomorrow, will your next coach be a person or an adaptive process living right in your pocket? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.